Hello and welcome. I'm the Restless Kaiser.
And I'm Woolly Mike.
But together we are
Modelling for Advantage.
Synced up beautifully there, Mike. Look at that. So, here today we're looking at Team Yankee World War III. This is the BMD Air Assault Battalion, Red Dawn, Soviet Starter Force. Red Dawn. Named after a couple movies.
One that I know of, I think there's a remake I've never seen. Patrick Swayze and a bunch of high school kids take on the Russian army.
It starts with the teacher being shot as the Russian troops are invading.
Yeah, they parachute in and
start killing.
Yeah.
Random civilians.
Yeah.
So heavily inspired by that kind of fictional World War III setting, I think it's a good idea. Right. Well, what do we get, Mike?
Oh.
There's a lot in here. There is a lot in here.
9 BMD-1 or BMD-2 transports.
Nice.
9 assault rifle teams. 6 RPG-7 anti-tank teams. 3 T-64BV tanks.
Nice.
3 BTR-ZD 23mm anti-aircraft vehicles. 2 Milheim assault helicopters. 1 Red Dawn BMD objective. Exclusive alternate command team, 2 flight stands, complete A5 rulebook, 1 start here booklet, and 16 unit cards.
There's a lot of stuff in there, and wait a minute. Now, this is a higher price than their usual one. Their normal start sets are £80. This one's £100, and it's also not got the old plastic logo in here. So this is a bit of a departure from what they've been doing, but it does not disappoint. Look at that. That is a lot of stuff in there. And it is overwhelming. You want to sniff, Mike? Go on.
I don't sniff, no.
You don't sniff?
No.
What's wrong with this guy?
Books, yes. Plastic, no.
Oh, cardboard's quite stiff for the box. Protecting it. That's not all of it. Do you want a tip? Resin and metal in here, mate. And a nice lump of bubble wrap to keep it all bonny. All right, we'll sort the piles out. I'll be right back. Right, so like normal, you get one of these lovely inserts, and they are lovely because they give you build instructions for what's in there, examples for how to extend, even usually there's a sample army list. This is Soviet in Team Yankee, so in fact all of this stuff is only 41 points. You need more than double this to play the standard size game. But it doesn't contain sort of T80s or whatever, so that'll be why that is. But really nice feature with the rest of the paper in the pack. Before we get to the sprues, you get the 2019 slightly updated rulebook.
Now that's the smell I like.
That's the smell you like, is it? You like that one?
The new book smell.
And then you get your decals and unit cards. I'm going to talk about the unit cards as we go through the units, as we look at them. Just to sound the decal sheets. Oh, you get quite a few decal sheets here. Now, I need to get my reading glasses to look at these. I don't know whether you're able to see them in more detail. They're almost as wide as the edges of the Ziploc bag that it comes in. So there's 4 different decal sheets, or 4 decal sheets.
BMD.
So these we've not seen before, or at least I haven't. Right, so this is the VDV logo.
Yeah.
Which is this is the Soviet, I'd say paratroopers, so it's more air landing.
Yes.
The VDV do include paratroopers. They may be all paratroop trained, but there's light vehicles. There's, these come on transport planes as well. Yeah.
Tank serial numbers and the Hind.
And the specific ones for the Hind. Yeah. Right. So that's those. It's nice that they've put those unique ones in. These 2 we've seen before, but the other unique ones. So in here then are unit cards. Do you want to pick a unit that we're going to talk about first? Should we do the metal and then the sprues, or the sprues and then the metal?
Should we start with the...
Start with not with the unit cards. All right, okay.
Well, to get this one out of the way, it's the golden W.
Yeah, let's crack it open and let them have a look, mate. So this comes in a blister pack, and there's 2 things in this particular blister, I think.
Yeah.
which make up your objective stand.
So we have the BMD,
Which is a dinged up one.
yeah, on the resin base.
And a nice pre-molded resin base.
And then a signpost with a set of, hang on, let's make sure that we do it that way, with the W.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you saw on the box cover, they've got a golden W, which you could flip over to be a golden M if you wanted to, but it's advertised in a restaurant called Wandles.
Well, yes.
Something like that. So you pop that in, you've got a little stand there which gives you your sign, and then there's a few sort of, these are Scio cast dudes just sort of pootling around in front of it. And that's one of the things included in this box that makes me think it might be a sort of limited edition.
Yeah.
They have not included that before. They did, the very first time they did the Team Yankee British box, it came with a couple extra bits like tokens.
Yeah.
When they re-released it, it didn't include those things. So I'm not saying this definitely is limited edition, but I think it could be, because they don't normally include resin and metal either. And in fact, the way that Pete Siminovich talks, metal really isn't their future.
Yeah.
They see plastic and Scio-cast as their future, and that they need to think of alternatives to metal. But doing a lot of this in resin and metal makes you think that, it was about getting it done.
Yeah.
But it might be a relatively limited run. All right, so that's that, which is a nice inclusion in the box.
The alternative command unit for the infantry?
Yeah, so that's just the standard 3 metal figures. They're just different to the command stands you're going to make alongside the regular, which I like. I really like that. The just different sculpts. So this is the kind of size of formation. With a lot of the Soviet stuff, you might be running a lot of units, and you might end up with a lot of those command stands. These figures, as I understand, are actually loosely based on the characters, the bad guys in the movie. As like one of them is sort of a South American looking Cubanish dude.
There's one guy with his hands behind his back in a thoughtful pose with a beret. Mm-hmm. A second guy with the German woolly hat, and the third guy is a radio operator with a parachute helmet on.
But it's just with them saying that unique alternative command. I think it's to fit in with the style. I'm not so familiar with him, but there is a Cuban guy who's the bad guy.
Yeah, it was a combination of Soviet and Cuban.
Yeah.
Air assault platoons.
So the air assault platoon, there's 24 figures in here and all the bases you need to make them. So, you look at the models and I'll get the unit card out.
Yeah.
So straight off the bat, one of the things that's interesting about this is there's 2 formation HQs, and there's kind of 2 sets of cards in here. So you have the option to field a BMD Air Assault Battalion as a formation, or a company as a formation. Bearing in mind that the battalion has companies in it. But the difference is the quality, I think. So if you're playing with the battalion, what you're doing is you're taking a larger formation of less experienced troops. You deploy the whole battalion, you're going to have that hit on 3s thing that a lot of Soviets have in Team Yankee. Whereas if you take the company, this is about having an elite company of platoons, big formation, small formation, but still the HQs. So the difference, they're broadly speaking 1 stat different on all the skill levels. They both have 2 to 3 subunits, and then the option for mortar platoons, assault batteries, and assault gun batteries, BTRDs with the different anti-tank weapons and so forth. So that's the difference. If we look at the battalion then, so you take the HQ, which is 1 rifle team and 1 BTRD. You then have to have 2 to 3 companies, up to 1 mortar platoon of BM-37s, up to 1 known as self-propelled mortar battery, up to 1 ASU-85 assault gun, up to 1 VDV BRDM recon, BRDM-2 recon, and then up to 1 BTRD or BTRZD, which is the anti-tank or the AA versions, which do come in this set. So you're able to make yourself a robust formation. As I say, if you take the company, you're basically getting smaller amounts which are higher quality, the big one being hit on 4s, and you quickly look like you have the same assault options, the same support options. You're just having Afghan stay rather than just regular air assault.
Yeah.
That's the difference in terms of the keyword. And you have different cards in here to reflect that. So you have the company card or the platoon card. The Air Assault Battalion is made up of companies. The platoon HQ is made up of platoon. The company HQ made up of platoons. Hope that made sense. It's a little bit messy in the head because they're the same models.
Yeah, I was just looking at just putting it out that there's at least 8 different poses there that I've found. Bearing in mind there's only 24. It seems like the RPG 7s there's only 2. There's even the stood up and knelt down versions of those.
There's only 2 poses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for most of the other infantry, there's a mixture. I found at least 8 different poses. And
given the fact that you got a maximum of 4 models on a base.
Yeah.
So the platoon itself then is made up of either 3 each of RPG and AK-47 teams, or 2 each, depending on whether you want the smaller or the large platoon, 5 and 8 points. In both cases, they come with a BMD. Whereas if you're taking them as companies, they come 4 AK and 3 RPGs, or 7 AK and 6 RPGs, or 10 AK and 9 RPGs. Now, in each case, what you don't have in here is you have the option to take RPG 7VR anti-tank weapons and upgrade to BMD 2s. Oh, so you can do that if you're taking the platoons. As if you're taking the companies, you can add the heavy weapons teams, which we haven't got. So for an extra point, you can add a PKM, which is the Soviet LMG. You can add the AGS 7 grenade launcher teams, and you can add the SA-14 Gremlin teams. Those are only in the companies rather than in the platoon. So you have to be playing the larger, lower quality formation for that.
So 24 figures, 4 4-man bases, and 4 2-man bases.
Yeah, which are an absolute push. You could go for the smaller of the options. You could probably get all of them. Now, one of the things about Team Yankee, as opposed to Flames of War, is I think I'm right in saying, so it says in here you're going to get 8 rifle teams, 6 RPG teams, and 2 of these headquarters bases.
Yeah.
The thing about the Team Yankee platoons is in Flames of War they use the 3-man base platoons, and in Team Yankee you still use a 4-man base for your platoon. And I think that's usually because the amount of weapons distributed among the troops. So in the Soviet ones, you've got your RPG teams on a separate base. But in a lot of your Western nations, you've got multiple anti-tank weapon systems and multiple LMGs in a squad. And the squad spread across 2 bases. So if you try and say that the HQ team has only got 3 models, it couldn't have all of the weapons that you needed to depict. So I think that's the way it does it. Now for me, I've got a hold of some older 5-slot bases, and I tend to use those for the HQs, so that the HQ base stands out. Other people do things like paint the bases. Yeah. But there you go. And you get 2 of those boxes. You get two full platoons. So that's the infantry component. So that's not quite all of the resin and metal, is it, Mike?
No. The BTR-ZD.
BTR-ZD. Right, so this is a more complicated kit because it's a resin and metal kit. It comes in a big blister pack. So in this set, it's something about the BTR-ZD or the BTR-RD. So it's a resin hull for the BTRD. And this is going to allow you to build a lot of potential variants, you see.
Yeah.
They've given you Sayo cast tracks. So this is bendy resin, as I sometimes called it. Now, fortunately, they're keyed, and it is a good fit. It is pretty snug.
Yeah.
And they're nice fidelity. The track definition is good all the way around. You know, the wheels and the running gear, it's all clean. The teeth in it. So that's going to paint up and look quite good. Yeah. But that's the easy bit. It's even keyed, by the way, and it's got L and R written on the Siocast tracks, so you can't fail. But I think that this is a generic kit that makes a lot of different things, although it's only providing you 2 unit cards for, because we're looking at the metal pieces now. So we've got bits in Siocast, bits in hard resin, and then we've got bits in metal as well. So the BTR ZD, which is
twin leak 23mm autocannons.
Yes, which is designed for anti-aircraft, but I don't think there's any radar guidance or anything on it. This is a really weird looking vehicle, because even the wheels are still attached to this on the roof of this vehicle. I don't know whether the idea being like with a crane you could take that on or off, or it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's how it is. So the BTR ZD as a unit then is hit on a 3, like most Soviet stuff. It's got courage-based stats on 3s, and skills 4, but assault and counter-attack are worse. Tactical move 10, terrain dash 16, right up to a road dash of 28, and crossing on a 3. So it's not a great off-road vehicle, but it's all right, and it's got a respectable road speed there. The gun itself, though, halted rate of fire is 5, moving rate of fire is 4, anti-tank power 6, firepower 5 up, but it is dedicated AA, which is great because then you can shoot aeroplanes with it, not just helicopters. The downside is it's got this manual tracking rule. It's also only got 20 inches of range. It's an autocannon. Manual tracking, score needed to hit strike aircraft is increased by 1. So it can shoot at planes, it's just harder. That's all right, because a pair of these is 2 points, or 3 of them for 3 points. It's a pretty cheap way of getting some AA on the table. But the kit, as you say, so you've been having a go sort of putting this together from all these different metal bits.
So the metal bit goes on, then we've got...
I don't know whether they can see what you're doing there. But you definitely want to be getting onto their website and having a look at how you put this together. I'm sure it's here on the exploded diagram, but there are... and there's an amount of clean-up to do on the metal and so forth.
There's a lot of clean-up to do on the metal.
Yeah.
So the carriage goes on, then we've got a plastic mount, then we've got the twin gun barrels.
Yeah.
Then we've got 2 guys reclined crewmen that go either side of it.
Well, what's nice about those crew guys is they're not just generic crew guys, they actually are in the berets, that iconic blue beret of the VDV, so that's nice. It's good to see. But not just giving you a sort of generic army kit, they've made a scope for it. And it does actually show you on the exploded diagram, which I hadn't realised, unlike usually doesn't with the plastic kits. This kit can make the ZD, the RD, or just the regular D.
Yeah.
And that's why it's included a PKM machine gun and a grenade launcher. So if you wanted to make the just
tiny little
pieces of metal, which will require a bit of cleanup as well, they'll put those on. And the other option was, of course, to take if you want to like skimp on the modelling aspects of what we're doing here, the easiest one to make is the RD, which is the ATGM version, which has got the 85 Spandrel missile, which has got an anti-tank power of 21 and hits on 3. So you see, you've not played much Team Yankee, so 21 seems like an enormous number to you, doesn't it? It is a really big number, but it isn't even guaranteed to go through a T55, I don't think. Not guaranteed. I think they might have 15.
Yeah.
And we'll look when we get to the T64s later. So again, these are a point each, taken as a unit of 2 or 3. The BTRD is just like this is another APC version. It's
well, they started off with the BMD 1 and 2, which we'll be looking at, and then they came out with the BTR, which is a similar size vehicle, but it's nearly 3 tons lighter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the reading up beforehand is if you get shot at in one of these, the survivability is not very good.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, they're all rather crammed in there.
Yeah.
So those are your BTRs. They're nice. As I say, if you want to go on easy, the advantage with the missile is you don't need to bother with most of that on top stuff. The only piece of metal you got to deal with is the missile tube, which is pretty easy.
Yeah.
Let's get yourself a little bit.
I just looking at that and I see stuck fingers together and lost pieces.
So the advantage of hard plastic, to the it's not. I wouldn't say to the modeler, because I think a lot of modelers like some people relish the challenge of it and so forth. To lazy modelers, I would say, or semi-skilled modelers, people like me, it's the plastic stuff is so forgiving.
Yes,
you know, it's not universally forgiving, but plastic glue's not sticking you to the object is a huge part of that for me.
Well, I've been building bolt-action vehicles, and you're leaving off lots of little pieces.
You've been building some of the resin ones?
Yeah, I'm just leaving lots of the pieces off the side. But most of the Flames of War stuff that I built...
You put all the components on?
You put it all on, because it's so easy to do.
Yeah. And so we're going to come to look at that. So if we go from oldest to newest, or most well-known, so you get a pair of Hind helicopters. Yeah. I think every Soviet thing that they've done, they've given box of Team Yankee. They've done even the East German one. They've given you a pair of Hinds. Well, we've all watched Rambo, so we all want a Hind in our life, right? But it is such an iconic thing. But it's also in terms of the game. If I get the Hind helicopter stats, the thing is, because so many things can shoot at helicopters, you actually do need a lot. If you're going to use Hinds, you probably need to take 6. So on here, you've got the option to take 2, 4, or 6 Hinds, and you get to take them with the AT9 or the AT6, and that just changes the points. It's basically 5 points a pair, so 5, 10, and 15 for the AT6, and it's an extra point for the AT9. And what's the difference? The AT6 has got an anti-tank power of 23. The AT9 is 24. That seems like nothing, but it really isn't. Because the way the Flames of War system works is they've been very good at this in terms of the balancing out of the forces, is they are aware of what the anti-tank numbers are, and they're aware of what the defense numbers are, and so that'll push some weapons into being. So if I can only penetrate you on a 6, if I get +1 firepower, I can penetrate you on a 5, right? Or +1 anti-tank power in this, but that's twice as many. 1 in 6 to 2 in 6. Right. It's a big step at those edges, and you're always going to find with your anti-tank numbers is it's at the edge. But it's a beautiful kit. I probably mentioned this before. Sorry, there are 2 sprues for this. They've been reasonably clever with them. They've made the blades in that they've put the size of the frame has got 3 of the blades in, but rather than making the whole frame this size and risking a macro fracture, so you're going to have to glue 2 of the blades on. But again, those blades at least are keyed and are identical, so you can't get it wrong. The only area that I had any difficulty, you have the option to have deployed and not deployed landing gear, which I'll come back to in a minute. The bit where it gets a bit more fragile is the assembly for holding the rotor, not the rotor itself, but there's like a spigot and a little frame that sits around it, which sits in a recess in the top. Because in the top of here, you've got the option to magnetize these, and they do provide flight stands and magnets, which again is good. I'm saying they provide magnets. Yeah, they do. It's a tiny little thing to look. Usually I get another bag of these to find that. Is there magnets in there? Yes, there is. The actual attachment to the rotors, to the magnets, that can be a little bit fragile when you're assembling it, so be careful there. Yeah, so one of the things that I'd noticed more recently was that lots of Soviet helicopters have wheels and lots of American helicopters have skis. Yeah. And so apparently it was a cost thing. So kind of in the 50s when they realised air mobile, it's going to be the thing. We're not just going to have 20 helicopters. We're going to have 2,000 helicopters in our army. We can save a lot of money by doing away with wheels. Which as soon as somebody pointed out to me, I was like, oh yeah, Western helicopters do tend to have, certainly the smaller ones, but the Soviet ones all look like they've got wheels. So, well, it was a costing. But newer ones, you mentioned Chinooks.
The Chinooks,
the Apaches.
The Jolly Green Giants and larger helicopters.
They do have wheels. And it is, because I'd wondered whether it was like, oh, you're better off having skids with the whole just going up and down things. No, the safety stuff says it's definitely better having the wheels. And so forth. And the whole hydraulics and so on that go with that. rather than just a hard ski. But it was just a cost-saving thing because they were expecting to make so many. But yeah, that's the Hind. It's lovely, and they're well worth taking in terms of it's a lovely model to put on the table, especially 6 of them. Yeah, but actually, they hit on 3s and have a 4-up save, and most things in the game can shoot at them because they're helicopters. So you need to be careful, and you need quite a lot of them. So that's your Hinds. Next sprue we've seen before is the T64. I don't know whether you've seen the T64 before.
Yeah, I think we had the T64 in one of the sets I've done with yourself.
Yeah. So the T64 is, what does that say? It's 2017 sprue. I think I first saw this with their World of Tanks Modern. Yeah. That was like M1 versus T64. T64 is an interesting vehicle because it's comparable in time frame to T72. Sometimes the numbers mean the years, but not always. All right, a year of introduction or year of development or whatever. Sometimes do, sometimes not. T64 comparable with T72. T64 incorporated lots of new features, autoloader and things like that. Was very expensive to build, was slightly better than T72, but T72 cost, I think, 1/3 as much. Like, or maybe half. You know, it's hugely cheaper to make. Because the technology in T72, with the exception of the autoloader, and again, the T72's autoloader, got to look at the T64 autoloader and think, how do I make a better one? Just slightly later. So you don't see these outside the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
You don't. These are not in East German, Czech, Polish, a lot of Gulf state countries. You don't see these out because you were getting pretty much the same performance out of something that was a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So this kind of stands out as an iconic bit of Soviet gear. You don't even get. It's like sometimes you get the alternative machine guns for the different nationalities. You just got one type on here. You do also though. 2 things that always stand out about Soviet tanks to me is, in terms of shape, is one is external fuel tanks.
Yeah.
They've almost always got external fuel tanks. And the other is mine plows.
Yeah.
I've never seen a mine plow on an Allied vehicle. Not one that wasn't a dedicated engineering vehicle. But maybe that's because I grew up in an era where Princess Diana said landmines are evil, so we're not going to do it. But we still made loads of munitions that would do it if we actually found ourselves in a real war, I'm sure. But yeah, so that gives it its flavour, that kind of rear fuel tank. How do you feel about external fuel tanks, Mike?
I've always wondered of them right from the very beginning because you put the external fuel tank over the engine.
Yeah, absolutely.
You cook your engine. It screams of desperation, you know. If you're going to go into battle, you want to be quick and manoeuvrable. If you're carrying the extra fuel tanks, you're not doing the manoeuvrability. You're in transport mode. So
I mean, certainly people, you know, maybe watched a lot of movies and video games and got a bullet goes in that and just booms in. Well, not diesel, mate. You can drop a match in diesel and it's not going to go boom. I wouldn't recommend trying it, but that's what they say. But even if it does, is your tank actually at risk from that level of explosion outside of its armour? That, you know, I was just thinking, this is supposed to be an armoured vehicle. That shouldn't damage the vehicle, even if that did happen.
Yeah, but as I say, the normal time it's over the engine bay. So it leaks into the engine bay, you get an engine fire. Well, potentially. Potentially, yeah. But the Russians have been doing this since the Second World War. If it was a problem, they wouldn't be doing it. True.
You know, but I also think it's symptomatic of the different kind of psychology of it. That the tail in Western armies is enormous. You know, the amount of logistics and supplies. But the distances in Russia are massive. So maybe a bit more used to saying, mate, you can't go to anywhere with a name that anyone's ever heard of without more fuel than you can fit in this vehicle. If we're going anywhere, we need more fuel than that. So that's a kit we've seen before. If you've not built one before, they had to make some design decisions with these things because of the nature of injection molding. It really needs to be on that horizontal plane. It's very important. You'll see sometimes pieces have been turned at 90 degrees because of how they can get the definition in them. But you'll see, you know, they're very two-dimensional where possible. To get good relief on the turret, which is why they often have cupolas and things like that are separate, and machine guns, because they just couldn't get the fidelity. And the big one for this is a modelling thing, which is a bit of a bind if you're a clumsy sticky fingers, is the smoke launchers.
Which are tiny.
The smoke launchers are on the end here, and they're tiny, and they're not the same shape on either side, and they fit into wells or keying points on the turret here. All right, so you need to be a little bit careful with that. Now they've done that, I think, as a response to on the Chieftain kit, which is a lovely kit in a lot of ways. If there's one drawback, is they've moulded on the smoke launchers and they're a bit low fidelity, you know, compared to how crisp the rest of it is. I'm not unhappy with it, but it isn't of the same standard. So the next few kits they did the smoke launchers separately. I'm not sure as we look at like the next time they do another main battle tank for this era, I'll have another look, see which way they're still going with it. So I know why they did it, and as a company I can definitely not only forgive them, but I can thoroughly thank and endorse them for that. Is it they're looking for better ways of doing it.
Yeah.
As the other two things from a Soviet tank, of course, I've forgotten, is the snorkel and the unditching beam, which again, you want next time you're watching a bit of footage on the news or whatever that's got a Soviet tank, I bet you that there's a log at the back and there's a snorkel on the turret bustle, just a bit of tubing hanging on the back.
As I think I mentioned before, and the
for deep wading,
the tank museum has got one, and it's about 4-5 metres above the tank.
Yes.
And it's
the problem is if the
tube.
engine stalls for more than 3 minutes, it starts flooding, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, did they do this? There's loads of footage of them doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, they allegedly can do it.
Yeah.
I just don't fancy being that guy. Have you seen how wide the Volga is? You know, so when you live in England and rivers are like 30 metres wide, that's not what this is for, mate. Go and have a look at the Rhine. You know, that's what it's for crossing.
Yeah.
So we did T64 before. So what's new though is the upgrade sprue, and this is exciting. This is what everybody wants for the T64 BV. So this is the updated version with the Contact 1, which is the first kind of ERA package that they put out there. Contact 1. So the T64 BV costing you, bearing in mind the other vehicles we looked at were a point each. 3 of these is 16 points, so what's that, 5 and a bit? Yeah. 5 and a bit points. And it goes right up to coming in companies of up to 10 for 58 points. So these are almost 6 points a model compared to 1. You've got a front armour of 18. So when you think about those numbers, anti-tank numbers of 21, 22, the difference there starts to really matter. It's got front armour of 18, side of 10, and top of 2. And because of the ERA, it's got side armour of 16 against heat rounds. The way ERA works in Team Yankee is it gives you an alternative saving throw against heat weapons.
Yeah.
High explosive anti-tank. Yeah. Which means you have much better side. And does it say side and top or just side? Side only. Yeah, it's not giving you full top coverage. Yeah. That's what it does. It's got the 120mm 2A46 gun, which is the same gun in the T72, I think, which is anti-tank 22. Firepower 2. It's got the advanced laser, brutal laser rangefinder. They affect your night fighting and your long range penalty, which you don't get. You have the option to fire the Songster missile, which puts your range from 32 out to 48. So you know the Soviet system, they fire a missile.
Yeah.
Early tanks, it's external. Later tanks, they fire it through the gun tube. They've not got missiles because they're better than their gun. They have missiles because they were worried that they were going to be outranged.
Yeah.
So the missiles are there to give them fighting capability at extended range. And actually the performance of the missiles is usually a bit worse, but it's similar. So in this case, it's 21 versus 22. When would you use the missile? When you need to shoot between 32 and 48 inches. How accurate that is in terms of the numbers, I'm not sure, but it is a bang on for the role, which was the missiles were there to give them an extended range option.
Yeah.
So with the upgrade pack, what do you think?
It's interesting. You've got most of it moulded on. There's 2 bits to go on the hull, and the track shields So
yeah,
it looks like an engine upgrade piece as well on there.
Right. So this one goes over the front of the turret. This sort of with the fork legs at the front. This one goes on the glacis plate.
Yeah.
And these ones go on the side. And then that. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, that is because that's the unditching beam and the thing. So you've got that goes on the back there for the BV. Is that the back of the turret? I think that's the turret bustle. Yeah. Yeah. That's the back of the turret. So there's a little bit of ERA on there.
It looks like an exhaust pipe. That's why it's confusing. So.
Yeah. It fits here. It's potentially a slightly different shape to the original one. Because what you get in, the way it works... Oh, I hadn't realised this because they hadn't done this for the T72. On the T72, you didn't get the lower portion of the turret. So you had to use... So with this, you can, if you already have T64s in your collection, you can upgrade them. Ones you've already got. Because you can glue the exterior piece. Getting skirts off isn't going to be that much of a problem. But prizing your turret in half is. But now you're building a completely new turret. And probably that's because some of this ERA goes under as well as over because of the shape. They've kind of also got like gills on the front. I don't know what they call them. But they kind of bulge either side, the Soviet tank turrets either side of the gun. And it's rounded. So this one has got the lower portion of it as well. So that's a really nice inclusion. Then you've got this other tiny little bit. Is that... Oh,
they're the new smoke launchers.
They're the new smoke launchers. Ah. But they're little squares. They fit in. Hopefully they're... Yeah, that's much easier to pick. That's one piece. Yeah. That's one piece. So again, they've learnt that. And that's keyed in. And it's a bar. You know, it's a cube, rectangular bar, which it's just going to plug into.
And it slots in quite nicely.
That looks much easier to do. But I really like the fact that I can upgun my existing T64s. If you want, you could spread that out across your T64s. You could have some you just swap the turret, some you build new, or put the ERA on. The thing is, it kind of is a whole upgrade. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm objecting you from across the table saying, "Oh, only half of these are this." I mean, just you know. But it isn't going to look quite authentic for those that like to count rivets and polish brass buttons. It is a whole upgrade rather than just like one part of it. But it's perfectly playable like that. Yeah. You know. But love the fact that I can upgun or upgrade my existing T64s. Nice. What is it? 2021? Did you say?
2021 BMD.
2021. This is the BMD. So this is. I mean, so these things are quite cosmetic. By the time in Team Yankee, if you're going to have a T64's armor on the same scale, same scalable system as a Humvee on the same battlefield, then all of your APCs are going to come out with pretty much the same numbers. Yeah, you know. So the BMD 1 versus the BMD 2, they're both 2 front armor and 1 in the side. Some of them you have the option. With the BMD ones, you can be hit on 4s with these because these can be for the better quality guys. Yeah. The BMD 2s are only in the fuller strength ones, and you've got this 30mm 2A42 gun, which has got a halted rate of fire of 2, halted 3, moving 2, anti-tank power 10 and 5 up firepower. But like most Soviet vehicles, it's got a missile and it's got an AT-21, AT-5 spandrel for 21 anti-tank power. So as a transport vehicle, this thing can kill main battle tanks. If it lives. If it lives, the BMD 2. The BMD 1 does not have the missile. It has the option for the Saga, but that's only an 18. Now, if you remember that the T64 BV has got an 18 front armour, 19 anti-tank power, I get a dice on top of my 18. You cannot penetrate me.
So the interesting thing I noticed with these, the BMD 1 was at 7.5 tons with an average of 20mm armour. Yeah. The BMD2 went up to 11.5 tons, but only average of 15mm armour.
I think they might have moved from aluminium to steel.
Yeah.
Might have moved back.
Yeah.
I think this is an era of vehicle where they're doing a lot of thinking about this, like aluminium. See, aluminium is lighter, but it's also not as strong.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they came to realise was that the initial thoughts was, if we make vehicles with aluminium, we'll save weight. The same amount of armour. It's like, well, you save weight and lose space, and you lose a lot of structural integrity by using aluminium, because it isn't. So you need to use a lot more aluminium to get the same amount of hardness as you could out of steel. And so by using so much more aluminium, you weren't necessarily saving all the weight. So it may be that. Yeah. I don't know for sure. Probably some of the viewers will, but I suspect if it gained weight and dropped armour thickness.
So the interesting thing I note on here is you've got the 2 turrets, with the 2 separate different guns, the 2 different missiles, and 2 turret pegs.
Oh, they've done that as well. Again, you see, Battlefront, you come from Games Workshop, right? And they just won't, if there's 2 options in the box, they'll do everything they can to stop you from making both kits.
Yeah.
But for Battlefront's totally the opposite version. If it fits on the sprues, they'll give you the bits to be able to, if it's an easy swap, and in the case of this, it's the turret.
Yeah. You've got two turret bases, 2 turret tops.
2 full turrets.
2 turret pegs. And the 2 different missiles as well. So
now the missile on the BMD1 is external. It's I think it's on a rail on top of the turret. It's pretty like cartoony looking as a way of doing it.
Acme rockets.
Yeah, exactly. You could have a written out, like a red tip and like black and white check painted missile. But I think with the BMD2, I was thinking you'd have to unplug it, but it's not, because it's on the turret.
Yeah.
So it's totally swappable.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I was thinking you might have to leave that loose, but no, because you've got a completely separate turret.
One's in the tube that sits on top near the cupolas.
Yes.
And the other one is an open that sits on a rail on the actual gun itself.
Yep. So you can completely swap both. Yeah. Now, interestingly, with their APCs, because they've had a few of these, we've got the Warrior and we've got the Bradley. So this is probably, I'm thinking. And the regular Soviet ones, the BMPs, So they've had a few different ways of assembling these smaller vehicles, and they've been going with this so this is much more like a tank. Some of this, I think it's with the Warrior, there isn't any structure to the upper hull like there isn't with this. It's just a plate that sits on top. But with the Warrior, it was aligning the pieces was a bit more fiddly, and I certainly have seen people like having to put a clothesline peg on one end to hold it together. But this one seems better because you've got much more of an edge here that you're gluing to the roof. And the roof is tapered, so there's kind of a bit more in the way of keying. That top bit isn't just a flat edge thing, it's got a way that it's supposed to sit in, because it's got a kind of, what would you say, chamfered, tapered edges that slot into that. And they're going to be in place solidly because they're keyed to this lower hull. And again, the keying is different on each side, so you always get the tracks facing the right way around. Yeah,
and it's 5 parts, isn't it? Lower hull, upper hull, the 2 tracks, and the rear.
Yeah. Nice, simple kit. It's what Battlefront is I think they're so good at, and I'd really like to see the development. I like to see them experimenting with ideas. You know, it's like, well, we did that and it was okay, but there were these issues. Now, I don't think there's anything bad about any of their kits, but they're constantly improving them.
Yeah, and they're nice, very small sprue gates as well. So
so they come off cleanly. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing about this one in particular, actually, in terms of giving you the 2 turrets, is if you want to play a Soviet army, you're going to use lots of APCs because you're going to get a lot of them for your points. Yeah. So the ability to freely swap between the types is really going to help, because they're not Games Workshop. They don't charge you based upon the points cost. They charge you for this vehicle costs the same as any other vehicle for them to make. They made molds, which is where the real money was, and they had them produced. So little gimmicks like allowing you to freely interchange them is going to help you not having to buy even more than you need.
I'm nearly worried then, but there are actually 2 turret hatches.
There are some hatches. Yeah, they're just flat. The light is not as good in here as it used to be. I mean, I need to get some new lights.
Yeah. But look, simple kit. Was it 9 of them in the box?
Yeah.
You'll be putting them together in a chain and ready to go.
Absolutely. And that 9 of them is for two platoons.
Yeah. 2-man crew, gunner and driver, and 6 infantry in the back. So
very nice. So if you enjoyed the Red Dawn movie and are thinking about getting into it, or more importantly, what I like about this option is the high quality company.
Yeah.
The ability to use, even if I wasn't interested in doing the kind of Red Dawn setting, getting hold of one of those platoons and using it as black box support, it's good quality infantry, as in it's quite resilient. It's hit on 4s rather than 3s, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a big deal in the game. Just taking them to dig in on an objective and having something with a splash of colour, because there's lovely camouflage uniforms with bright blue berets, right? I mean, they stand out. They're good looking guys. There's something I want. I think every Soviet army should have the option to put a platoon of VDV in it, for which you're going to need most of these vehicles, even if you're just using it as a support option. Yeah. Overall value, Mike. Then
there's a lot in there. Yeah.
There's a lot in it, but there is a price increase. So we got 9, 12, 14 vehicles, 17 vehicles, including the 3 resin ones, arguably 18 with your objective, and 2 platoons.
Nearly 50 figures there.
Yeah. So that, in an all plastic situation, is what you get in a good value normal Flames of War box or Team Yankee box for 20 quid less. However, this does contain a lot of resin and metal. It is more expensive. You don't always get 20 platoons or infantry platoons struck. You don't always get 20 sprues. For £100, I think I'm not delighted that the price has gone up. I hope that the price of this box is unique, rather than all of them are going to this price. I think in this case, I think it is worth it. It definitely is if you want this. I think the T-64 BVs can be added to anybody's Soviet force anyway, especially bearing in mind you could split that, like we said, with the turrets on one and the hulls on the other, to get yourself 6. I mean, they're quite expensive tanks for Soviets. Taking a strong infantry platoon, again, is a good support option for anybody for which you'd need these vehicles, and you can always use more Hinds. I think it's a good choice for any Soviet player. Yeah. And the McDonald's objective, well, I mean, the Wonald's objective, I think it's okay. I think the metal sculpts are nice. I think they're very nice, and I think it's decent. I think it's decent. I'm pleased with it, and so much of it is brand new. What about you, mate?
It's an awesome force. With the way the Soviet force is new, still haven't played Team Yankee yet. Right. So,
I mean, you've played Flames of What's the same, but bigger numbers.
Yeah, just bigger numbers.
Much bigger numbers. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a frightening force.
It's a frightening force.
Although
it's going to come to your school and shoot your geography or history teacher, whichever one it was. Yeah. All right, guys, that was our thoughts on the new Team Yankee Red Dawn. Thank you for watching. Yeah, bye. Hello! If you're enjoying our Flames of War content and considering getting one of the starter sets or starter armies, why don't you think about buying one from our online web store at modelingforadvantage.co.uk. Thank you.